Saya ni hidup sebatang kara lagi Pak, punya tina, punya anak-anak. Mama duk masih ngapain goda kemarin jiwite gara-gara bindu dan apa neng bindu.
Kan nyelam kan, akhirnya terseret arus. Nanti pernah mau ke langit ke bawah itu 150 meter lah kira-kira kan. Ya. Air masih deras. Udah di atas rata-rata itu.
Udah di atas atap dekat atap.
Udah di atasnya.
From Sri Lanka's central highlands to Indonesia's river basins, a deadly wave of cyclones and monsoon rains gripped the region. One of the most extreme weather patterns that South and Southeast Asia has seen in years, killing more than 1,700 people and displacing millions of others. While multiple countries are struggling to recover from their worst flooding in decades, scientists call this a rogue of unusual events. Hundreds of people remain missing in rapid torrents of floodwater as swaths of land are washed away in Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, Malaysia and Vietnam. Over 900 deaths in Indonesia. 638 deaths in Sri Lanka. 276 deaths in Thailand. 2 deaths in Malaysia and 2 deaths in Vietnam have been reported. After heavy rains have triggered more than a dozen landslides, leaving towns and villages buried under mud. This is the worst natural disaster to hit the region in 2 decades, after the devastating 2004 tsunami that killed about 31,000 people and left more than 1 million homeless in South and Southeast Asia. The annual monsoon season, which typically occurs between June and September, often brings heavy rain, causing landslides and flash floods. But the recent floods have sparked a conversation on the changing climate patterns across the world. So what is the reason behind this unusual monsoon pattern? Are more extreme weather conditions expected in the future, and are we prepared for them? How did countries like India manage to tackle the situation this time? We tell you all this and more on WION Wide Angle this week. The unpredictable heavy rainfall has caused the recent floods and landslides across South and Southeast Asia. These floods were made worse by the tropical storms which hit simultaneously in some countries. Typhoon Koto, which caused severe flash floods and landslides in the Philippines. Cyclone Senyar, which hit the Sumatra island in Indonesia. And Cyclone Ditwah, which caused devastation in Sri Lanka. The death toll from the cyclone-driven floods and landslides that hit 3 Indonesian provinces on Sumatra has crossed 900 as of the 9th of December. The Aceh Tamiang region of Sumatra has been hit especially hard. More than 200 are missing. The National Disaster Mitigation Agency reported that the catastrophe has displaced more than 1 million people. Infrastructure, including schools and hospitals, has been devastated, leaving thousands injured. In Banda Aceh, residents waited in line for limited supplies of drinking water and fuel. Meanwhile, the prices of basic commodities such as eggs increased sharply. Indonesians in the Aceh Tamiang region are suffering from worsening diseases and a lack of medical attention. Rescue helpers struggled to help dozens of residents at the lone hospital in the area. As residents lost their homes to pools of mud and debris, the outbreak of diseases have worsened the situation. According to Indonesia's health ministry, diseases including diarrhea, fever or myalgia got triggered because of the environment, and places of stay have not been recovered post-disaster. Meet 42-year-old nurse Nurhyati, who said that the hospital was nearly paralyzed due to a lack of medicine. Workers tried to save ventilators at an intensive care unit for babies, but were unsuccessful as rising water covered them.
People know me as a nurse. When I couldn't do something, it felt devastating. I can only give the available medicine, and this is an extraordinary disaster. Everything is destroyed.
And then visuals like this caught everyone's attention. 4 elephants from a local training center used their trunks to pick up large pieces of logs and help clear stuck vehicles from Pidijaya, a district in Aceh hard hit by flooding.
Elephants have been here to help the people of Munasabi village. With these elephants, we can be helped.
We are more focused on clearing debris in front of people's homes to improve access. If any vehicles get stuck, we can use the elephants here to help.
In Palembang, West Sumatra, Rina Sritati recounted narrowly escaping the floods by clinging on to a tree. She and her child survived the deluge and are now recovering from injuries and emotional trauma.
When we left the house, we ran about 10 meters from there and immediately it was dark. Then I climbed up a tree and my child, who had been holding my hand like this, we hugged. Even though I had no strength left, my child still hugged me really tightly. I was weak, but how could I still breathe? I stood up again, hugged my child, and my child said, "I saved you, Mom. I saved you, Mom. Thank you, my child." I kissed my child.
For 10 days, 40-year-old Bunga, her sister Ami, and their 5 children had to survive on bread scraps and rainwater after they were trapped in their home following Indonesia's deadly floods.
The floodwater had reached the house up to waist height. That evening, it had reached the last 3 stairs there. Everywhere around us was submerged. Every night, we hear people screaming for help because the water was getting higher, but we couldn't do anything. I had shouted for help because I have my baby, but nobody dared to help. And for days, we were so lost. We had no food, no clean water.
Rescuers pulled a cat out of a collapsed building after deadly floods hit Indonesia's Sumatra. The 1-year-old cat had been trapped in the house for a week without food or water.
I have 14 cats here, but I don't know if all of them survived. I'm just happy that I have one with me.
While Indonesians in the northern regions of Sumatra Island are struggling to return to normal life, government officials say that the island will require 51.82 trillion rupiah, or about $3.11 billion in reconstruction and recovery funds following a series of deadly floods. The tragedy in Indonesia was largely the result of monsoon rains and a rare tropical storm, but it was just the extreme weather pattern responsible for the Indonesian floods. Environmentalists, experts, and even Indonesia's government have pointed to the role of forest laws that could have played in flash flooding.
So, in Aceh, North Sumatra, and West Sumatra, the geomorphological characteristics of the watersheds in these areas are small. They are not large watersheds because many of the areas are sloping. Many are slopes and mountains. Indeed, forest cover changes are occurring. What was once forest has now been transformed into other types of cover. These include clearing for oil palm plantations, industrial plantations for pulp and paper, and mining.
a deadly cyclone named Ditwah struck the eastern coast of Sri Lanka, wreaking havoc across 22 districts, with the northwestern and western provinces among the hardest hit. At least 638 people lost their lives, and over 2 million people, which is about 10% of the total population, have been affected. The name Ditwah means lagoon and was suggested by Yemen as part of the cyclone naming convention. The name specifically refers to the Ditwah lagoon on Socotra Island, Yemen, known for its unique and distinct coastal ecosystem. According to the United Nations Development Programme, the floodwaters reached nearly 720,000 buildings, about 1 in every 12 buildings in the country. Over 16,000 kilometers of roads, enough to circle the island's coastline more than 12 times, were exposed to flooding. Similarly, over 278 kilometers of railway tracks and 480 bridges were located in flooded areas. The affected population includes approximately 1.2 million women. 522,000 children and 263,000 elderly people. 60% of all exposed people are living in just 2 districts, Colombo and Gampaha. Nearly 200,000 people were forced into shelters after Cyclone Ditwah caused widespread destruction across the country.
I was sweeping my garden in the morning, and people who lived downhill were coming up crying. I have the keys for this community centre. They said they had no place to live and wanted the community centre opened for them, which I did. That is what happened on the 27th November. After that, others in the village checked their houses, and all of them came here for safety.
In the wake of Cyclone Ditwah, India launched Operation Sagar Bandhu on the 28th of November to provide urgent search and rescue and humanitarian assistance and disaster relief support, or HADR, to Sri Lanka. Within the first 3 days of Cyclone Ditwah, 53 tons of emergency relief material was delivered, and several specialized search and rescue units and medical teams were deployed. As of the 8th of December, Indian Navy deployed 4 more ships: INS Gharial, LCU-54, LCU-51 and LCU-57 for supplying HADR stores to cyclone-affected regions of Sri Lanka. On the 30th of November, Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayake said in a televised speech that the country faced the most difficult rescue operation in its history.
As a country, we are facing the largest and most challenging natural disaster in our history. We also recognize that what we are undertaking is the most difficult rescue operation in our nation's history. This is the first time the entire country has been struck by such a disaster.
Sri Lankan repairman B.S. Wickramasinghe bends over a pile of flood-damaged electronics in his cyclone-ravaged shop, his hands wiping mud from a shattered television as he surveys the aftermath of the deadly storm.
The next morning, I decided to check out the situation. There is a post office nearby and it had gone underwater. That's when we knew our shop was destroyed. We knew we had lost everything. Everything was washed away by the floods. Now we are destitute. We will have to start from zero again. There were electric goods which we had repaired, spending $325 of our money. We had a lot of electric and electronic goods. We have lost about $22,120 in total.
Volunteers at Gatabe Sri Rathkanwala Buddhist temple, situated on the banks of the Mahaweli River in Gampola, central Sri Lanka, used shovels and brooms to clear mud and water from the building, a reminder of the severe flooding unleashed by the storm.
I started building this temple in 2007. Since then, we have never seen a situation like this. I know the villagers around here. Even those who are in their 60s and 70s have not seen anything like this.
2-hour drive north of Colombo, this medical setup is helping the survivors. Look at this queue of people. Japanese aid workers are running a medical camp in Sri Lanka's coastal town of Chilau after the town's main hospital was flooded.
Maybe we think around 100 or 150 people per day. So, and we have an X-ray machine and ultrasound machine, and also the laboratory. So, and we don't have an inpatient area, just an outpatient consultation room.
According to a climate scientist, climate change amplified the deadly cyclone in Sri Lanka, with a warmer, wetter environment sustaining the storm long after it should have dissipated.
So what happens with this cyclone is that it's not so extreme from the point of view of the wind or the precipitation that is produced, but it's a long-lived cyclone. And the fact that it's very long is because it has been supported by this warmer and wetter environment that was not only above the ocean, but also above Sri Lanka. So normally what happens with this storm is that when they hit land, they lose their energy, they lose their structure, and they dissipate it. But with this storm, the storm had enough energy, enough warm and wet environment to continue to develop over Sri Lanka. And then it produced more rain that flooded the area with the consequence that we have seen.
Cyclone Ditwah emerged from an area not commonly known for cyclone formation, but two weather conditions occurred at the same time that led to the emergence of Ditwah. The Intertropical Convergence Zone, a region near the equator where northeast and southwest trade winds converge, resulting in lots of clouds and thunderstorms, was quite active during that time. Simultaneously, a system of equatorial waves, disturbances in the atmosphere that happen periodically in this region, also developed. The interaction of these two systems provided the required fuel for the emergence of Ditwah on the 27th of November. The Indian Ocean region is no stranger to tropical cyclones. Multiple cyclones are formed in the Indian Ocean every year, and many of them arrive on the Indian coastline, both from the Bay of Bengal side as well as the Arabian Sea side. Over the years, India has built an elaborate mechanism to deal with these cyclones and minimize their impact. Cyclone Ditwah has been slightly different. It originated at a place south of Sri Lanka, which is not a usual location for the generation of cyclones. Unlike India, Sri Lanka is not used to receiving cyclones like these, and therefore is not as well prepared to deal with them. Much stronger cyclones have hit the Indian landmass with very little damage compared to what Ditwah caused in Sri Lanka. In India, Tamil Nadu was hit due to Cyclone Ditwah. At least 4 people lost their lives in rain-related incidents in the Indian southern state. Floods inundated Thailand after rainfall up to 335 millimeters hit the country. This was the country's worst flooding in decades. It killed at least 276 people and affected millions. Hat Yai, Thailand's 5th largest city, was the hardest hit, with roads, bridges, homes and businesses submerged. A dramatic moment captured by a drone showed a family being rescued from the rooftop of their nearly submerged house in Hat Yai. The family of 5 had smashed through the roof of their house to avoid the rising waters until they were noticed and rescued by nearby emergency workers. When floodwaters swept into Amphorn, Kaipankro's home, there was no time to escape. Instead, her family of 8 rushed to a second floor as water levels swelled, eventually spending 48 hours perched atop a table, a window frame and a washing machine. While stranded, Amphorn said her family would occasionally shout to their neighbors and try to make conversation.
The water level came up to about here. It reached around this height. It didn't go extremely high, but it still rose to about this level. And this mattress floated because there were boxes underneath, so it got lifted. We sat here and leaned our heads right here. Sometimes we sat on the edge and had to lift our legs to avoid keeping them too deep in the water. When we got bored, we went over there and looked out, shouting to neighbors and talking to each other. If a boat or someone passed by, we would shout to let them know what we needed. Even if it didn't really make a difference, at least we tried to call out.
The Mahatamankalaram temple in Thailand's Hat Yai was also hit by the floods. It was shrouded in mud and debris, with monks and novices working through the mess. The temple, known for its 35-meter reclining Buddha, was submerged under about 5 meters of water, which reached the second floor of the monks' residential building.
Here, the water was about 3 to 4 meters high. If you stood over there, it was 5 meters, and on the other side also about 5 meters, because my residence is on the second floor, around thigh level. The kuti itself is about 4 meters high, and counting further, it reaches about 5 meters. In the lower areas, it was 6 to 7 meters.
Flooding has been one of Thailand's most persistent and destructive challenges. Floods in Thailand occur due to a combination of extreme seasonal monsoon rains, tropical storms, and geographical factors like low-lying floodplains which overwhelm drainage systems. Recent floods also highlight climate change impacts exacerbated by urban issues like subsidence and inadequate infrastructure. On the 4th of November, Super Typhoon Kalmaegi slammed into the central Philippines. It left a trail of destruction behind it, killing over 200 people and affecting millions. The typhoon also severely damaged roads and infrastructure, affecting nearly 135,000 houses, of which 20,510 were completely destroyed. In Liloan, a town near Cebu City, cars piled atop each other by floodwaters and roofs were torn off buildings as residents attempted to dig out of the mud. Christine Aton's sister Michelle, who has a disability, was among Liloan's victims, trapped in her bedroom as the floodwaters rose inside their house.
My sister, who has a mental disability, was inside her room. We tried to pry the door of her bedroom. It wouldn't open. We tried to open it with a kitchen knife, a crowbar, and wood, but it wouldn't budge. I tried punching the door. It still wouldn't open. We tried until the water got really high. It reached over our heads.
Just a week after Typhoon Kalmaegi battered central Philippines, another typhoon, Phung Wong, slammed into the Philippines' eastern seaboard on the 10th of November. It caused widespread destruction and left over 20 dead. Hurricanes, typhoons, or simply cyclones, the name differs based on where in the world the storm happens. Depending on the ocean basin in which they form, these tropical cyclones are contemplated with a certain precision by national and regional weather agencies. The Philippines faces an average of 20 tropical cyclones each year, one of the highest in the world. One of the primary reasons the Philippines is prone to so many cyclones is because of its location. It lies in the western Pacific typhoon belt, a region where warm ocean waters and moist tropical air create ideal conditions for cyclones. According to climate experts, the rise in the number of typhoons hitting the Philippines is a cause for concern. They warn that there might be more storms before the end of the year.
The Philippines is always going to be vulnerable to tropical cyclones. It sits on the western edge of the Pacific. The Pacific is warming at a rate that's unprecedented, and that warmth generates very, very strong tropical cyclones. And so it's likely that our low-lying communities in places like the Philippines are going to be affected by cyclones going forward, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
As South and Southeast Asia grapple with one of their worst weather disasters in decades, the human stories behind the numbers reveal the true scale of loss. From Indonesia's battered river basins to Sri Lanka's devastated coast and Thailand's submerged cities, millions now face the long road to recovery. Scientists warn that such climate events may become more frequent. The question now is not just how countries respond, but how prepared are we for what comes next? The Asia floods are a grim reminder of the climate crisis that we must address.